it should be, if not already known, that the Edwardians were masters of disguise. The use of corsets not only reduced the waist, but accentuated the hips with the use of padding. There was also no exception when it of course came to the bust of the women. Bust improvers of this time period became well known and came in all different sizes. The Symington Company was notorious for selling these during the early to mid-1900s. A worker there, Sarah Nicol, as previously stated, was so gracious to send me pictures of the bust bodice that I used as reference, as well as a few others in comparison. The bust bodice / improvers were devices to give a rounded look to the front of a woman and giving that pigeon-bellied shape to give them the iconic S-bend curve. This particular bodice that I made was also made by the very talented historical recreation maker Bernadette Banner. It was because of her video that I wanted to make this for my own project. Not only does it give the proper shape that I wanted, I was able to see the pattern pieces she made in her video and paused it at a certain frame to make my own pattern. With that done and all the fabrics bought, it was time to make this final undergarment. Here's how I went about making it as historically accurate as possible.
Alright, so this is where we're at. This is the starch. It's, try not to spill it. I have to constantly stir it, otherwise it could burn. So this is where we're at right now. It's at a pretty good state. There are some lumps in it. I kind of went a little too fast. Mixing in the cold water first to just sort of get it wet before I started putting in the hot water. I was stupid, and the way that our knobs on our hob here work is that when you turn it down, if my knob, where the knob is faced right now is on a lower heat, so down here is the lower heat and up there is the higher heat. It's like reversed, because normally you would turn it clockwise and that would turn it on to the lowest setting, and then the more you turn it clockwise, the hotter it gets. Yeah, that's reverse. It's counterclockwise. It's really counterintuitive. Anyway, I had this heating up on the highest setting right away, so it kind of clumped everything up. You can sort of see it. There's the really big clumps that I was able to get out. There's still some in there, but not as big, and with a big batch, I'm not too worried that it'll sort of ruin the starching process when I put it on the fabric. So now it's just stirring endlessly. Okay, so we're back. A lot of stirring later. I probably spent, I got through a couple YouTube videos that were about 15 minutes. I think I've probably spent in total just under an hour stirring this, getting it ready, and watching YouTube Bernadette Banner, because I am complete trash for Bernadette Banner. Anybody will be able to tell you that. So what I'm gonna do now is, this is cooling very slowly. It's still pretty warm. I can stick my hands in it and it won't burn me, but it's still warm. You can see steam coming from it, so there is heat still in there, which is nice. It'll keep it in this sort of liquid, gelatinous state. It's not, like a jello, like a jelly. There is, fluidity to it. You can see a lot of chunks in there. Hopefully those won't be too big of a hindrance. But now we are going to do this starching. We are going to starch the bobbinet. We're going to starch the cotton gauze material and turn it into tarlatan, or the closest thing I can get to it. And then we have to let it dry overnight. So yeah, that's what's gonna happen now. So here is the bust bodice. I got all the pieces cut out. I cut them single layers so I could have both sides, when I stitch them, have their sewing lines on them, just for clarity. So this is the back, the middle, I guess you can say, the side, front, and then the front. And there's only one of this because this will have a cotton backing that runs the entire length of it, and then it'll have a pocket for a busk, which I still need to try and find. Originally it was a 7-inch, I think it was 6 or 7-inch piece of flat steel that went in a pocket right here. If I can't find it, I might end up using just I might just make a thing that has boning sewn into it. I gave these one more press, so they're all lying really, really flat. They're really nice, and you can see this now a lot better. There's a diamond pattern with these little holes here. And it just looks really nice. It's not what the original bust bodice was. The original bust bodice was definitely a lot more separated in that hexagonal pattern, but I'm very happy with this. This is bobbinette, and it works all just the same once it's stiffened, and there will be boning that goes into this as well. Alright, so this is where we're at with the bust bodice right now. So I just tried it, well, I say tried on, but it looks really, really big. So this is bigger than I thought it was going to be when it was made. So that's the back there, and that's the back there. So if I hold this up to my body and show you in the mirror, this is what it looks like. There's no boning in it, so it's kind of collapsing in on itself, and I have it loosely tied on. But if I show you from the profile side, this is kind of the shape that it's going to give me. It's that pigeon belly front. It won't be as pointed how it's showing right there. It'll be more rounded, but I'm worried that it might be, because I measured this, and if I don't scrunch it at all and I just let it do what's going to do, it's like really, really big for the bust measurement that I have, and it won't be proportionate to the actual measurements of the dress that I'm going to be making to go over top of this, because my bust should be 39, my waist will be 28, and my hips will be 45. So with this as it is right now, this is like 45 if I don't like scrunch it down or anything. So
after I had the bodice made up, it was time for the boning. 2 types of boning were used in this bust bodice. The patented feather bone for the horizontal rows to keep the round shape, and the vertical whale bones, or in this case synthetic baleen bones, to see that the structure stays upright.
So this is where we're at right now. I need to get the feather boning in. So this is the feather boning that I made. What I did is I wrapped quills until I got a really long length of about almost 2.5 meters, maybe 3. I kind of just did it so I had plenty and I wouldn't be short. I had just enough, and I have a tiny little bit that I cut off that's left over. But I stacked them and wrapped them in cotton thread, really tightly wound, and then after that I used rabbit skin glue to bind it off, what Bernadette did in her video, just to hold it all together. So what I'm doing right now is trying to get them into this convex, concave, depending on how you look at it, shape. So it's a giant U essentially. So I kind of MacGyvered a way to hold everything together. But steam is a great way to get it into shape because it will absorb the moisture and be a little bit more pliable. And then when it cools down, it'll hopefully hold this shape.
After the feather bones were dried and sewn in, the vertical boning was next. Caseins were made from a lightweight cotton cut on the bias like the original and sewn over the feathers by machine. The last few things to do were put in the eyelets at the bottom and sides, bind off the top and put a ruffle on it, and add the ties to the waist and sides. Once all was done, it was a finished bust bodice. Thank you for watching, and remember to keep an eye out for the next video in my endeavor to recreate this fashion plate by Lamode. Like and subscribe to get more content, and please do leave comments to help me with the data collection. Thank you, and have a happy time sewing.